Chase. Thank you very much for that gift. Thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate it. You know, you probably had better things to do with your time. Nah, just kidding. I mean, you're coming here to see me, right? Let's get talking. I'm going to introduce you all to a little treat. A 2007 cult classic called Kid Nation. I don't know how many of you have ever heard about Kid Nation. I'm hearing little gasps in the audience. It's this amazing show where these Hollywood producers sat down in the boardroom and they're like, quick, we need to make money fast. And it's like, what can we do? And then someone's just like, what if we took 40 kids, aged 8 to 15, literal children, drug them out to the middle of the New Mexico desert for 40 days and just had them live there. And then instead of being like, nah, that's crazy, they were just like, it's an excellent idea. So they did that. And these kids couldn't even escape capitalism, right? They had a class hierarchy imposed on them. These kids were divided up into 4 groups. We had the upper class. We had the cooks. We had the merchants. We had the laborers, right? And this wasn't like a meaningless thing, right? The laborers, they had to sleep on like the ground and the dirt. You know, they had to, the upper class had to sleep in like cabins. You know, really teaching these kids early that the world is a cruel, cruel, unfair place. And I don't know how any of this passed. Like, it was out of control. There was one scene where the kids were like, oh, we're so hungry. It's like, we want to eat. And the adults and the staff or whatever were like, well, if you need to eat, you're going to need to kill your food. And they're like, the kids are like, what? And they took them out to this hen chicken pen, and they made the kids, they made these children, 8 years old. Think about when you're 8 years old. You're 8 years old. They made them cut the head off a chicken. This got put on television. Your shocked silence is correct. This should not have been allowed. Who let this happen? Who greenlit this project? It makes no sense at all. But, like, okay, kids who, like, were too scared, didn't want to murder a chicken, they were allowed to leave, sure. But first they had to, cry and get all emotional and have a breakdown, and, for an entire episode. And it would be like the breakdown of the episode, right? So you'd have little Timmy, he'd be crying the whole time, they get the camera in his face, and he's just like, oh, I want to go. And now it's like put out there. So these people exist. They put their real names on there. So you can see it, you can look these people up. They're like TikTok stars now. Their careers definitely peaked with Kid Nation. Don't trust me on that one. But these people exist. So now they have videos of themselves crying because they didn't want to kill a chicken, which, not unreasonable. But, surprisingly enough, it actually got in a bit of trouble with the New Mexico Department of Labor. Because they were like, hey, people, this might be breaking some child labor laws. And then the Hollywood producers are like, wait. They're not child actors. This is a summer camp, which is like something I don't think would work in any other industry. Oh, no. This isn't a Nike sweatshop. It's a sewing course for college credits. That makes no sense at all. You know what else really grinds my gears? Why the fuck do people not tell me how they're doing when I ask them how they're doing? It's a common saying to be like, hey, how are you doing? You hanging good? Everything going well? You swell, right? But it's not so common that it's equivalent to hello. I really want to know, how are you doing? Some of these people come up to me like, how are you doing? And I'm doing good, how are you doing? And then they just walk away. Like, hey, I asked you a question. I want to know, how are you doing? Tell me how you are doing right now. This is really bugging me. You know what else? You want to hear a really funny joke? What do you call 3 white guys in their mid-20s? A podcast. Why does every single half-brained twin think that they can start a podcast? Like, sorry, George, Steven, and Aaron, nobody cares about that time after college where you just went on a road trip and drove. It's not interesting. You want to have an interesting podcast? Do something interesting. Murder somebody, commit a felony, rob a bank, right? Go to prison for 50 to 60 years. Have a really critically acclaimed podcast made about you and your story. You get out of prison, but then you can't make a podcast because that industry is oversaturated. I move that Congress legislate and ban podcasts until we can figure that shit out immediately. like podcasts. You know what else is really stupid? They got these like stupid sayings like sleep like a dog, which is like, it makes no sense. It's like, oh, you sleep long and hard through the night. But have you ever seen a dog? Those little shits aren't like quiet. They'll constantly like open their eyes, see like maybe like something move, or just see like anything, and then they go, it's like, or they go out, they see the moon, they start howling. It's like, sweetie, you're not a werewolf, you don't need to howl. Makes no sense at all. Another one. It's always darkest before dawn. No. What? That makes no sense at all. It's not darkest before dawn. The sun is literally about to rise. Another one. When you are sick, you're under the weather. What? We're always under the weather. How do you get above the weather? Are there people out there who think they are better than the weather? They are not better than the weather. Show me these people. I will hurt them because you are not better than the weather. Something else I've been thinking about recently is like, we have these aggressive drivers, but we don't have like aggressive pedestrians. Like we got them in like New Jersey and New York, that's what makes this place so great. But like we don't have them enough. But you know what? Aggressive drivers in general is just a really, I don't know, it just makes no sense, right? Like if you're driving a car and someone wrongs you, why are you going through all that emotional labor of like yelling at them? Just hit them, you have the car. It makes no sense at all. Like, problem solved, right? But no, what we need is more aggressive pedestrians. Just really asserting their dominance and just starting to be like, hey, I'm walking, get out of the way, car. Just, that's what we need. All right, thank you guys. You guys have been awesome.